Shoot the Breeze, topic number 3 says another cultural theft from Africa. Another cultural theft from Africa. This comes with 2 attachments. First one's going to take us to what is that? It's going to take us to YouTube. Make sure you guys can see my screen. There you go. So, another cultural theft from Africa, the Jenga story. I thought this was interesting. Let's take a look.
You've played it, carefully pulling wooden blocks from a wobbling tower, praying it doesn't fall. It's called Jenga, Swahili for to build. But here's what the box doesn't tell you. Jenga isn't a Western invention. It's an African game that children played for generations before anyone thought to patent it. This is the story of how a traditional East African game became a multi-million-dollar brand and how the original creators were erased from the story. For generations, children across East Africa, Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda, played a simple game with wooden blocks. Local carpenters would cut off cards from their workshops, rough pieces of wood, imperfect but perfectly functional. Children would take these blocks and stack them into towers. The rules were simple. Pull out a block from the middle or bottom, place it on top. Don't let the tower fall. The last person to successfully move a block wins. It wasn't fancy. It had no brand name. It was just what children did after school, on weekends, in village squares. It taught patience, strategy, steady hands, engineering principles without calling them that. And it was free. It was theirs. It was African. In the 1970s, a British girl named Leslie Scott was living in Ghana. Her family had moved there, and like many expatriate children, she played with local Ghanaian kids. That's where she first saw the game. African children stacking blocks, laughing when towers fell, strategizing about which block to pull next.
Your turn.
Leslie joined in. She learned the game the way any child would, by watching, by playing, by losing a few times. A Ghanaian craftsman even made a special set of blocks for her family. Hand cut, carefully measured, a gift, or perhaps purchased for a small amount. The craftsman's name, not recorded. His face, not photographed. His contribution, about to disappear from history. But the game stayed with Leslie. Years later, she would return to it. Now here's where people get confused about Jenga's origin. The game Leslie learned in Ghana wasn't invented in Ghana. Ghanaian children were playing a game that had spread across East Africa, originating in Tanzania and Kenya, where it was most deeply rooted in the culture. The Swahili word Jenga itself is Tanzanian. The game's heartland was always East Africa. But Leslie's personal connection to the game came from Ghana, where she lived as a child. She experienced it there. A Ghanaian craftsman made her set. This is important. The game is East African. Leslie's introduction to it was Ghanaian. Both facts are true. Both communities deserve acknowledgement. What happened next erased them both. By the early 1980s, Leslie Scott had moved back to Britain. She was an adult now, running a toy company, and she remembered that game from her childhood, the African block stacking game.
This reminds me of the wood stacking game in Ghana when I played it as a child.
In 1983, she launched it commercially. She called it Jenga, using the Swahili word to give it that exotic appeal. The packaging had an African-sounding name, but the branding was thoroughly Western. She trademarked the name. She patented the design specifications, the exact dimension of the blocks, the ratio of length to width, the number of blocks per set, things that African children had figured out through trial and error over generations were now legally owned by a British woman. In 1987, she sold Jenga to Parker Brothers, later Hasbro, for what reports suggest was a substantial amount. The game exploded globally. Today, Jenga has sold over 80 million units. It's in homes across the world. It generates millions in annual revenue. The African children who invented it, unnamed, unpaid, unacknowledged on the package. To be clear, Leslie Scott has never hidden the fact that she learned Jenga in Africa. In interviews, she mentions Ghana. She acknowledges the game existed before she commercialized it. But here's the problem with how the story gets told. The Jenga box says created by Leslie Scott, not commercialized by, not adapted from African tradition. Created. Most people who buy Jenga have no idea it's African. They assume it's just another Western board game like Monopoly or Scrabble. The African origins are mentioned, if at all, as a fun footnote, as background trivia, as inspiration. But the truth is, Leslie Scott didn't invent Jenga. She branded it, she marketed it, she patented something that already existed. And in doing so, she did what colonialism has always done: take African knowledge, claim ownership, profit from it, and reduce the original creators to nameless inspiration. Jenga isn't unique. This pattern repeats constantly. African, indigenous knowledge exists for generations. A Westerner discovers it, they patent or trademark it, they profit enormously, the originators get a footnote if they are lucky. Shea butter from West Africa, now in luxury cosmetics. African women who have used it for centuries see none of the profit. Rooibos tea from South Africa. Indigenous Khoisan people developed it, but a corporation owns the trademark. Yoga from India. Quinoa from Peru. Traditional medicines from indigenous communities worldwide. The global South creates, the global North extracts. Patents, profits. The world forgets who made it first. And we are told this is globalization, cultural exchange, innovation. But there's a word for taking someone else's creation, putting your name on it, and selling it back to the world. Theft. So the next time you play Jenga, and you should, it's a genuinely great game. Just remember, before it had a trademark, it was played freely across East Africa. Before it had a patent, African children had already perfected the design. Before it made millions, it belongs to communities who never saw a cent. The blocks you are stacking, they are built on an African foundation. The least we can do is remember whose hands built it first. And now you know their story.
Really well done telling of that story. There's another attachment to this, but before I get to that, just want to say, guys in the chat, let's keep it respectful. You might not agree with a panelist's thought, but that doesn't mean a thought process. That doesn't mean to be disrespectful. I try, and I think the moderators do too, try not to overly moderate the chat, allow people some freedom to, to express themselves, but when it becomes disrespectful and almost personal, we gotta cut that. We gotta cut that out. So please be respectful. The second attachment, make sure you guys can see. The second attachment takes us to Instagram. There's a little reel. We'll watch it, then we'll discuss it all.
This game moved from Ghana to becoming a global favorite without even a single trace of its origin. Now, I'm sure most of you guys might have seen this game being played at parties, in movies, and even on TV shows. But have you ever wondered where it really came from? Now, this game, which is popularly known as Jenga, was originally called Osiadine, which means one who builds or a builder. It started in Takrade in a place called Amanfo, where kids in the area will find pieces of wood at the sawmill and then use it to play this particular game, where they'll put up a structure. Each person would remove it block by block until the whole thing collapses. And because Amanfo was in the very heart of the harbor, this became a very popular game in the area. So the question here, how did it move from Osiadine to becoming the name Jenga? It all started with this woman called Leslie Scott, who is a British woman but born in Tanganyika, now known as Tanzania. She was raised in Kenya and then finally brought to Ghana by her family in the 1970s. Now, when they came, they settled in Amalfo. It was a game that she and her family played at home. When they left for England, she took this game with her, and looking at how people fell in love with the game, she decided to trademark the whole thing under the name Kujenga in Swahili, which means to build.
It was Ghana, where it's a place where wood is it's one of their major exports, is timber. These were I believe these were sort of offcuts from a timber mill, and they were just sort of blocks that he played around with.
The blocks were called Takaradi blocks.
Takoradi was the main port in Ghana. Having had this set for him, we then actually had a few sets made deliberately to play as this game that we called Takoradi Breaks. I mean, that was the basis of the game, the game that then I turned into Jenga.
How did this game move from Ghana to becoming a global favorite without even a single trace of its origin? Now, I'm sure most of you guys might have seen this game being played at parties, in movies, and even on TV shows. But have you ever wondered where it really came from? Now, this game, which is popularly known as Jenga, was originally called Osiadine, which means one who builds or a builder. It started in Takrade in a place called Amanfo, where kids in the area will find pieces of wood at the sawmill and then use it to play this particular game, where they'll put up a structure. Each person would remove it block by block until the whole thing collapses. And because Amanfo was in the very heart of the harbor, this became a very popular game in the area. So the question here, how did it move from Osiadine to becoming the name Jenga? It all started with this woman called Leslie Scott, who is a British woman but born in Tanganyika, now known as Tanzania. She was raised in Kenya and then finally brought to Ghana by her family in the 1970s. Now, when they came, they settled in Amalfo. It was a game that she and her family played at home. When they left for England, she took this game with her, and looking at how people fell in love with the game, she decided to trademark the whole thing under the name Kujenga in Swahili, which means to build.
It was Ghana, where it's a place where wood is one of their major exports, is timber. These were I believe these were sort of offcuts from a timber mill, and they were just sort of blocks that he played around with.
The blocks were called Takaradi blocks.
Takoradi was the main port in Ghana. Having had this set for him, we then actually had a few sets.
I feel like that's starting to play again. This is interesting. Before I saw this story, I had this idea once that, man, I wonder if there's some games in the continent that can be commercialized here with the intent of reconnecting African children with some African tradition and culture. And lo and behold, I guess a white person did this shit already. And of course, it's of no benefit to people in Ghana, where she actually got it from, or people in East Africa who originated the game. And that's a shame. By the way, if you do know games in from the continent that you think will be interesting in America, hit me up and let me know. I'll like to discuss it. But this is what these folks do. And unfortunately, a lot of our history with these people is that we were unaware. We were simply just unaware of, oh, that's some shit someone could do to you. Trinidad and Tobago has one of the most beautiful instruments created, the steel pan. Some white guys from Canada came and copied, trademarks the steel pan. Oh, I think there might have been some reversal of that later on. I can't remember. I feel like I heard someone say that. But just the idea that someone could have come along, or two someones could have come along and just trademark this instrument that Africans and such was making out of old oil drums, and tuning them and making this music with it. You just took your ass in the year 2000 or something, it was 2001, somewhere around there, and you just went and just trademarked that away so that these people have to buy their own shit. But like Trigger Happy said in the chat, that's kind of the story of civilization. It's the I gotcha. Oh, you didn't know? Well, fuck it. I got you. And one of the things we have to do, I'll land my plane here, as African people, and only used to talk about this with the how to go, organize, strategize, technologize. That's what we have to be on now. We have to be at, I'm sorry, we got to start being at the front of what's coming along. In fact, we got to be the ones, I guess, curating that shit. Because our history with these people has been one of, we weren't aware of that could be a thing, that could happen. Black Steel, I'm going to go to you first, man. What say you to another cultural theft from Africa?
Something told me this was an African game just by the name Jenga. Jenga is the Swahili word. So she actually put the name of the game and gave it a Swahili name. So this lady's a millionaire off of this game. I was looking up the information because I was curious. I grew up playing Jenga. I play with my family all the time. We have a good time, and it's fun, right? But it says that Jenga has sold over 80 million Jenga games have been sold. 80 million. And it's licensed by Hasbro, which is a major toy company. This lady is making bank off of this. Because the name comes from the Swahili word kujenga, which means to build or construct. So the name is already in here, right? This is so funny. Just reading, you think she made it up herself. If you read the Wikipedia article, it says she grew up in Tanzania. She was a British national, and then she put it at the London Trade Fair. So it leaves out the whole history of the game completely, right? And then all of a sudden she trademarks it. But this game has probably been around for thousands of years, and maybe they didn't see that. Maybe the Africans who created this game didn't see it as a economic opportunity. Again, they played it for centuries, probably. It's a game that kids play. Maybe they didn't see the commercial viability of it. But this woman, this white woman who created the game, who claimed, quote unquote, created Jenga, right? She had access to a major corporation like Hasbro, who was able to mass produce and market this game. How many Africans on the continent would have that same ability to not only get the game, be able to trademark it with the patent office, and from there, you know, get with a company to manufacture it. Unfortunately, in our world, might makes right, and this woman had access to probably money and everything else. Again, she was growing up in East Africa. Probably her family was probably connected with the British government. So it's just a shame, really. It's not anything I'm happy to hear about. It's just a shame. We have to be more careful and be more aware of the value that we bring as African people. Our culture is valuable. Our arts, our music, our sciences, these are all things we should value and not just give them away to the highest bidder. And also be able to protect our stuff, man, because what happens is that we let white people in there take our stuff and make money off of it, and we get forgotten completely. Every art form black people, every form of music black people made in America has been co-opted. Not just hip hop, jazz, ragtime, rock and roll, all that stuff that we created. So this is just another link in a long chain of theft that's been going on to our people. I'll go ahead and I'll leave it here. Thanks.
Good stuff. Black Steel. Trigger Happy in the chat mentions, yeah, it's a communal game and a thinking game. This is pretty much a difference in worldview, but because we live in their world at the moment, we have to play their game so we can get to our world. Absolutely. We now have to make ourselves more astute, more aware, proactive, not reactive. There's another game that they commercialized from Africa too, and that's Mancala, one of my favorite games to play. I own a traditional African board and a more commercial board for traveling, right? Like, beautiful games, and you have to. Well, what's so crazy? They took the Mancala game. I don't know if you guys know this. I talked about this years ago on the podcast. They took Mancala, and they actually were able to use it in their computer programming languages and stuff. Creating computer models and all this type of shit of this Mancala game. Like, we really gotta start. I mean, I'm sorry I'm on my soapbox again, but it really hurts me to see how these folks got their way around us, took what they could take, and then used that against us. Real Black gentleman, what say you?
This is actually pretty saddening and like shocking. It's like it's kind of like, oh my god, like because it's like it's Jenga, so I would figure it's like, okay, that sounds African, right? You know what I'm saying? Maybe I would have easily assumed that a black person, you know what I'm saying, came up with it. You know what I'm saying? God has come up. It does happen, right? So that's the greatest betrayal. You done came up, learned from people, and you just come up, say it's yours, knowing that's just like the raw extraction of intellectual property. You know what I'm saying? It's just modern. I grew up playing Jenga. You know what I'm saying? It's like, ooh, Jenga. It's like, ooh, Jenga's even, you know what I'm saying? Because it is fun. It's like you try to balance. It's a game of balance. You try to stack it on just right so it doesn't just tip over. You got to place it just right with just enough. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to disturb. Yes, it's fun. It's Jenga. But it's not Jenga. This, like you said, there's the name of it. And she made it up. Oh my God. That's terrible. This is why. See, I mean, it's hard. You can't really judge too harshly because it's just like all I could say is like, yo, maybe we can get that back at some point. Maybe, you know what I'm saying, people don't want to play Jenga no more. You know what I'm saying? They want to play better toys and kind of just like, you know what I'm saying, get them concepts back. You know what I'm saying? There's something intrinsic about it. You know what I'm saying? That's something to keep an eye on for like long term, like, Jenga, like get Jenga back real quick. But yeah, that's all I can say is like there's a lot of things in Africa that you don't want to let these folks know about. You don't. There's no reason. There's no reason. It's like this is the new colonialization. It's the neo-colonialization. It's like, okay, they weren't colonies, but now they're going to come back and just kind of like be tourists and kind of hang around and live and stuff. You know, it's like it's just it's frustrating because it's just like, you know, I hear about this today. You know what I'm saying? Thinking that, okay, at least knowing that Africans had the ups on it, but knowing that she had patented it, you can't really, you know, they made the blocks a certain size for a certain reason. If you want to make bigger or smaller blocks, the dynamics aren't the same. The effect isn't the same. You know what I'm saying? The type of wood and all that, you can't just use heavy wood or extra light wood. You got to use the right wood. It's just, so yeah, that's a shame. That's carrying the identity theft, cultural theft. That's crazy. That's done. I'm done. I'm done.
You know what, RBG, you said something that refocused my mind just now. You know, these Africans, for centuries, as Black Seal also pointed out, had this game for centuries. And they basically did the research and development of that game. She didn't even have to invest in the R&D for that game. It was handed to her. The video makes mention of it. The first video made mention of it too, how African intellect had to kind of shape and craft the game to what it's known to be. Like, for real. What I mean, what a betrayal. And a part of the term betrayal I'm using is betrayal of our own self. Like we just wasn't up on it. By the way, Trigger Happy made me aware Mancala is called either Oware or Owari in Ghana. So he did mention that earlier, which comes from Kemet. I can't remember if that was the game called Sonnet or not, but yeah, it's a long-lived game, and these guys were able to commercialize that too, low key. And not only that, Trigger, did you hear about them using it in these mathematical models for these computer programs and stuff? Very interesting stuff. But Kofi, what say you to what you've heard so far?
I think it was John Henry Clark. I forgot who it was. He said the only thing the white man ever invented was the patent office. And we could see that they take a lot of credit for things that they didn't have. And me getting into consciousness, you know, I'm going to mention Dr. Clark again and Dr. Ben again. You know, I realized I had to unlearn everything and learn everything again. I was going into conscious spaces saying that, white people, the Greeks invented algebra. And they look at me like I'm crazy. And they had to like look at me with a God bless his heart type of look. And they had to teach me. I'm not sure how true it is, but in the story, you know, when the white lady was, you know, playing with it and the Ghanaian guy saw she had an interest in it and he crafted her own play set. He's doing too much. Again, I'll quote Dr. Clark. The greatest thing about our people is the bad thing about our people. The greatest thing about our people is our humanity, and see the humanity in other people. Our downfall is not recognizing that same humanity in people. You know what I'm saying? Those people don't have that same humanity just because they have 2 arms, 2 legs, 2 eyes and all that. That's our problem. He was doing too much. And I think another game that I think they took, I think one from Kemet, I think it was chess. I think chess was a game that they were playing in Kemet. I think it's on the walls, or I think it's papyrus or papyrus or a wall text that they had when they're talking about the when you're when you're dead and you're passing time and you're going through the different pillars of judgment and things like that, and what you do to pass time is the game that you played. And I believe it was chess to pass the times, because Africans, we believe in afterlife and reincarnation and everything. Don't let the Hindus take that from you. We invented reincarnation. We even our Christian brothers and sisters that are Black American or Caribbean, they'll say, "Oh, look, you look like you've been here before." Or they say, you know what, you have an old soul. Like that only's happening if you believe in reincarnation. But we need to really tighten up on our culture and our culture and all the things that we have, because people will always capitalize on it. We have to stop, be very, very careful and safeguard our culture, because people will profit off of us and won't even give us our due. So that's it.
Appreciate that, Kofi. With that said, Sister Cheryl, you've heard everything everyone else had to say. What say you to all of it?
Okay, just did a quick search. It says based on available records, there is no evidence that uh, Tanzanian people protested the game Jenga when it was introduced in 1983. Um, there's like nothing. So, and we should be thinking, okay, well, why would they not protest something like that? And I think this comes down to uh, the Christianization of our people and how much damage it did. So somebody said the humanity, we're just, we're a people and we just consider all human life. I would argue that it's not humanity, but it's Christianity, and it's a disease that makes us believe that we're all the same. And that's the reason why when you go into these villages, same thing anywhere you see Christianity present, and you see what do they call it? The missionaries. Um, the reason, I mean, they didn't protest because they've been Christianized. It's really that simple. Um, and I think it's in white people's nature to um, also be. People say, well, it's not white people, it's capitalism, but I mean, these things don't create themselves. I'm not saying anybody here said that, but you often hear that. Well, they're, oh, it's capitalism, it's socialism, but white people created these systems, and they created these systems because they always feel like they gotta be in competition with one another. And I'm kind of veering off a little bit, but when you go to Black churches, when you go to any Christian church, what's the thing that you notice that they do? They're always competing against each other. Who's best dressed? Who's got the best car? Who loves the Lord more? Like we have fully and wholly adopted like the pacific, like we are so pacified into Christianity. We just allow anything. And we think it's okay. Why? Because we're all human, right? This is why the human problem, why that idea, oh, we're all human. This is why that's a problem. This is a perfect example of why that's a problem. And it's like millions of other examples too. We don't make the connection between us being pacified and allowing other groups of people to come in and take our stuff. We complain about the problem, but we don't see the cause. And this is awful. But when you're going up against a people where it's in their nature, it is
wholly in their nature to take things and, hey, it's first come, first serve, because that's just how they are. Like that's how they were. I think I just think white people are just like that. They just, I gotta be on top. I gotta be on top. Everybody's got to answer to me. I gotta be everybody's savior. Like they're always competing, and Black people don't really. We don't look at something and say, okay, well, how can I make this a multi-billion-dollar company? Because we're too focused on collectivism. And when you're an individual, when you're focused on individualism, you're always focused on being the best, outdoing people. That's a concept that's not really a thing on the continent, or it hasn't been a thing. But we know when they bring their institutions and their universities and stuff, it becomes a thing. But it's like this idea of progressivism. We always got to be doing better, better, better. There's no end. And in African societies, there's always a sense of community. There's always a sense of, well, what I do affects someone else. And, if someone did this, then I have to give them credit for it. I think our people are just like that. But when you thrust Christianity on top of it, it makes it worse, because now you have people that come in and do this. And we don't think it's a problem because we're all human. So yeah, it's just that's the problem. So I'll end it there.
In the chat, RBG mentioned maybe give the village the patent would be the best step. RBG, you want to talk more about that?
Yeah, straightforward. It's just like acknowledging that she clearly this is not her original idea. This is it's objective fact that, look, I mean, you can deduce that if these people are playing this game before she got there that resembles Jenga in exacting specification, and then all of a sudden she miraculously conceives this game that and she gives it a name called the Builder. Like, she didn't, again, it's like it's everything about it just naturally. It's like she learned it somewhere. It was a village, some peoples. It was the village. It was the whole people. So just give it back to the village. Just symbolically, it will become like the property of the village itself, and then the village will just get all the royalties. And you know what I'm saying? They'll make bank, and they'll be able to do what they need to do with the money and give it to who they need to give it to. Hopefully just connect with other, people who play, who are creators of that craft, and just because it's integral. I mean, it's ingenious. It's more than a game. It's patience. I mean, you can compete with one another. I get it, but if you just do it by yourself, I mean, you don't want it to collapse, but you want it to build, and you just try to find that stress point. You're trying to just avoid it, but you want to do as much as you can. That's all I gotta say. You know what I'm saying? It's classically ours. It's classically African, and it should be acknowledged as such.
Absolutely. There's no last thoughts, man. Let's try to squeeze in this last one, because this was supposed to happen last week.